spirit invader attacking you. I admit that Ensha is not the toughest of enemies, though I suppose it depends on your level when you get the medallion. But I believe that if Ensha defeats you in this attack, you just end up in a looping situation of him invading you at the round table hold until you defeat him. And in the other instance, when you vanquish Ensha the Invader, he drops the clinking bone, and from there you are teleported once again into the round table hold that you've grown familiar with. And if you go to Gideon's study doorway, the edgelord is no longer present, but in his place is Ensha's armor. The royal remains set. This encounter also triggers new dialogue from Gideon Ofnir, which goes as follows. Quote, "My apologies for that nasty business. Ensha got rather ahead of himself, it seems. As his master, I'd like to express my regret, but now Ensha is slain and gone, finished forevermore. Ah, yes, by way of apology, allow me to tender some advice in regards to the half of the secret medallion you possess." End quote. It goes on for a little bit more about the medallion, but I don't think that is too relevant just now. So that is quite literally the entirety of our interactions and info on Ensha of the Royal Remains. It's not much to go off of, but certainly leaves us with questions. Who is or what is Ensha? And why did he attack us? The only thing we really know surface level from this interaction is that Ensha is Gideon Ofnir's bodyguard or henchman or something like that. sorceries, and Ensha uses these spells: collapsing stars and rock sling. Collapsing stars and rock sling, which are both gravitational sorceries that Radon himself studied. Based off those item descriptions, key things that we know now is Ensha is Sir Gideon's henchman or unspeaking adherent. Ensha is a skilled, almost assassin-like fighter and has a build using dex and sorcery and skills that make use of stealing enemies' HP while replenishing his own. We also know that Ensha's setup is very skeletal. His main weapon and armor, at least. And the last thing is Ensha is, or was, apparently referred to as Lord of the Lost and Desperate, or somebody named Ensha was referred to Lord as the Lost and Desperate. Maybe it wasn't the Ensha we now know. Maybe it was the Lord was just the bones. The bones are the Lord that the Ensha we now know wears. If that makes any sense. Now that we know those admittedly slightly confusing base points, let's dive deeper into what this could mean about Ensha. And again, you see how little we have to go off of. This is very much speculation. Don't take this as truth. It's just theories. First off, let's attempt to clarify this bone armor lord situation of the gold human bones that make up Ensha's armor. We know they belonged to a soulless king named Ensha. So there are a few options here. It could be that the NPC we know as Ensha somehow acquired these Lord Bones and possibly took on the name Ensha as well, the name of the bones. Perhaps this NPC Ensha stole the bones along with the name Ensha. Or perhaps he defeated the soulless lord, the original Ensha, and took his bones as a sort of trophy to wear. Or perhaps the Ensha we know was indeed this soulless Lord Ensha, the Lord of the Lost some people point out and think is relevant that they are both described as soulless. The second theory involving Ensha and Godwin is that the ancient lord, the soulless king, the lord of the lost and desperate, no why Gideon did this. It is possible he was after the secret medallion you were entrusted with by the hidden Albus. When Albus the Albanerac gives you the medallion, he says, "You must keep it out of the curse monger's hands," suggesting that they were seeking out the medallion and the curse mongers are acting under Gideon's orders. This, I believe, is extremely significant to the timing of Ensha's attack. It's pretty simple. Ensha attacks you upon you trying to return to the round table hold with the medallion his master desperately wants in your possession. I think that the Edgelord was trying to finish what he started at the village of the Albaneracs. Now, the final question I have is Gideon. Sorry, that got weird there. That's okay. Anyways, is Gideon really speaking the truth when he says, quote, "Ensha got ahead of himself," implying that Ensha acted alone, not on Gideon's orders when he attacked you? And to be honest, at the point of the game I am at, I'm not too sure about Gideon's character and if he would lie. He does seem pretty, I don't know, he doesn't seem too much like a liar. He seems more like a truth bender, or that he'll leave out certain details. But it all does seem very fishy, particularly when we think about the nature of Ensha's attack and where it takes place. It definitely appears to be the round table hold. However, none of the NPCs that we know are there, and none of them speak about Ensha's attack in the round table hold other than Gideon. None of them even acknowledge it. Additionally, the real round table hold is fiercely protected by the serenity of the fingers. The serenity of the fingers. Later, we know that not even the cursed dung eater can break the serenity of the fingers, no matter how hard he wants to. I don't believe that Ensha would be able to break the serenity of the fingers that protects the hold. Not only that, but it seems like you are summoned somewhere to then be invaded by Ensha, as you appear as a gold spirit in this round table hold-like space. With all that being said, I think it's quite likely that this encounter does not occur at the real round table hold, but some sort of copy. And we know that there is at least already one copy out there of the round table hold at the capital set up that whole summon round table copy himself? Or did Sir Gideon Ofnir, the all-knowing, help and perhaps even be the mastermind behind this whole shady attack on us? Let me know what you think if you are still